Let us speak now to Vanessa Neumann, who's a former Venezuelan diplomat and the founder of Asymmetrica, which is a defence technology advisory. Joins us now from Oxfordshire in the United Kingdom. Welcome, Vanessa. First of all, did you see this coming?
Thank you so much for having me on. Well, yes. I mean, I was woken up actually by someone in the Foreign Office, called me very early this morning and said, watch what's unfolding. I didn't know it was going to be specifically last night, but it has unfolded exactly as I have been discussing in my various interviews since the military buildup off the coast of Venezuela. They have done exactly that, done a decapitation strike, sent in to take out the leadership and disabled the command and control, and particularly the command and control for the support of Maduro and the repression within Venezuela and their ability to respond. It's exactly what I have been saying in various interviews. So yes, I did see it coming.
OK, so a decapitation strike, as you put it, that's taken out the leadership, but only the very top level of the leadership. And the noises are that this is it, Correct. That Maduro being extracted from power was the goal, and that's the end of it, according to Marco Rubio, the US Secretary of State. Anyway, but would you anticipate any further US action?
There is a risk of escalation within the U.S. and if there is an escalation, the blood of Venezuelans will be on the hands of the Maduro regime. The Maduro regime was voted out in 2024, and Maduro should have relinquished the presidential palace on the 10th of January of 2025. It is now nearly a year later, and they refuse to leave. And therefore, if Delcy Rodriguez, Diosdado Cabello, and Colonel Granco, who's in charge of the military counterintelligence and therefore the torture machinery, remain and cling to power, then we might see an escalation. And particularly if there is further repression or arms against the Venezuelan people, we could see an escalation from the United States. So really, if the Maduristas want to present themselves as defending their people, they should leave.
So what do you think is going to happen? Is the vice president just going to assume control? And wouldn't that just mean that the Maduro project just continues?
Well, I don't think she'll be able to hang on for long. Delcy Rodriguez is very intelligent, highly educated, speaks English and French, and she was, in fact, the person who negotiated the finances, the illicit finances that supported the Maduro regime, and, in fact, also managed the bankers and the bondholders that put pressure on London and Washington, D.C. to prevent an intervention in Venezuela and in support of Maduro. So she's very, very intelligent, but she's not a military commander. And the military commander that she would basically, I would anticipate, would have to hand over the reins to Diosdado Cabello, who basically is a military commander. He is part of one of the capo of Cartel de los Soles. He is also wanted by the United States government and has a capture order on him, so he would be next in line. Now, he would have to command the troops. The troops are, of course, in disarray, having had their military facilities bombed. So it will be hard for them to cling to power. But those would be the three people: Delcy Rodriguez, her brother Jorge, who's a strategist, Diosdado Cabello, and Granco would be the ones who would need to leave. And then we have the possibility for the elected president, Edmundo Gonzalez, to finally do what the people want and enter the presidential palace.
All right. You say the troops are in disarray from the bombings that we saw earlier today before Maduro was captured, which led to the capture of Maduro. But given that there will not, it seems, be any further action from the United States, there's plenty of time for the Venezuelan military to get its act together. And given the support within the military for the Maduro project, then how does that work with what you're saying?
Well, the military support for Maduro project, basically, the Chavez project is very ideological, right? The Bolivarian revolution, etc. There are still a few ideologues, but by and large, the support for Maduro has been fracturing for years, which is why Venezuela continues to send oil, or did until the recent blockade, to send oil to Cuba, because Cuban intelligence operatives with Granco supported the counterintelligence to prevent a military coup. The military has been fracturing for a long time. Now that they can't get that support, and they were also there because they were receiving money. They are part of the illicit trade part of the narcotics trafficking, the oil trafficking, the food supplies. They used hunger as a tool for repression and enrichment of the military. So all of these things are now gone. So I don't see how Maduro can really retain the support of the military if the reason why they're there, which is money and power, are essentially gone.
You mentioned the capture of Maduro and how things might develop from there, but we also spoke to a legal expert a little bit earlier who said that actually what happened was in complete defiance of international law, was therefore illegal. So how do you take that?
No, I agree with the other person you interviewed who said that is not there was an international capture order. There's an Interpol notice. There is, he has been wanted. He has an indictment that was unsealed in 2020, but I know for a fact that the evidence of that indictment went all the way back to when Chavez was in power and Maduro was his foreign secretary. So, and back to then, they already had over a decade of evidence with people from within the Chavez and then the Maduro regimes providing evidence of the illegal activity, of the drug trafficking, of the support for international terrorist organizations that have bombed and killed many Americans, Brits, and Europeans in various operations. So, in theaters of operation, including in the Middle East. So a lot of that material support was provided by Maduro, and those indictments are there. Well, it is not uncommon for someone to be captured. We've seen captures of Eichmann. We've seen captures of other heads of state who are wanted and are facing trial in The Hague. So he is facing, he is indicted by The Hague, condemned by the United Nations Human Rights Council, and wanted by Interpol and the United States. So it's a capture.
All right, Vanessa, we'll leave it there. Appreciate your analysis and your perspective. Speaking to us there, Vanessa Neumann, speaking to us from Oxfordshire in the United Kingdom. Thank you.